everybody, and welcome back to the Telivy Hackware webinar. Very, very excited to introduce our guest here today. Tiffany, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Absolutely. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Tiffany Ricks, the founder and CEO of Hacware. Prior to Hackware, I was a software engineer, and I started building resilient software for the United States Department of Defense, specifically the Air Force and the Navy, and then really got my introduction into cybersecurity by working as a security engineer and then moved into being a certified ethical hacker. And so, really excited to be here. I spend a lot of my time now researching phishing trends, threats, and leveraging our security awareness platform to educate and users on how to combat those phishing attacks. So, really excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Very excited to have you. Naren, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey everyone, my name is Naren. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders here at Telivy. Before this, I was a software engineer myself, also at a few Bay Area tech companies. I was an early engineer at Hippo Insurance, kind of heading their data risk management platform there. And before that, I was at a few other startups, and I was a engineer at IBM's cloud security division, especially looking into their payments and fraud risk platform units. So I think just kind of going through the full experience, have a good idea or wanted to kind of give more insight into how to talk about risk with non-technical folks and such. So that's what we Televi does really well, is to bring essentially different risk management concepts, so that MSPs can have a conversation with their users about their cyber risk.
Awesome. Yeah, we're going to dive all into that understanding risk, especially how it pertains to phishing attacks in a bit as well. So yeah, hey everybody, I'm Jeremy. I'm head of partnerships at Televy, and I'll be your moderator here today. So let's dive right into it with Hackware. Tiffany, could you give us, your one-liner, your brief description? What is Hackware?
Hackware makes it easy for managed service providers to train their end users with phishing attacks. And the way that we make it easy is that it's a 100% automated platform. It uses machine learning to learn from phishing threats. It integrates with Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace to understand user risky behavior. And then it will automatically generate personalized phishing simulations to everyone so the security team doesn't have to. And then we provide corrective training that identifies what is it that these users need to learn to make sure that they don't expose that they are limit the risk of exposing their organization to a cyber attack. So we provide short form training that happens right in the moment, and it automatically remind the user to complete the training if they're unresponsive. So we're trying to make this process super seamless and easy and continuous, to help strengthen the human element.
And I love the technology behind Hackware too. I think it's brilliant. I think especially with AI now.
Mhm.
Number one, AI being able to simulate how a human hacker would behave, but also these
Mhm.
days hackers use AI. So I think it's very, very forward thinking. I think it's exactly what we need at this stage of where cybersecurity is now. And I definitely want to dive into that a little bit more. And so, Noreen, could you share with us? It appears that Hackware is a tool that MSPs use to serve their end clients. How do MSPs use Televy?
So basically we help managed service providers identify cyber liabilities about their prospects and their clients as early in the sales cycle as possible, so that they can move sales conversations into risk-centric discussions as early as possible, which should lead to higher sales conversions. We do this by building very easy to deploy scans that holistically assesses multiple different areas of security, and automate a lot of those findings and correlate those findings so that you can build these insights and show them to your clients what the exact risks are, not just talk about them. And one of the risks that we do talk about is social engineering, and the awareness and the type of education that the clients do have, which is where it builds really beautifully into Hackware.
Absolutely. I love the synergy between Hackware and Telivy. It's two pieces of the same puzzle here. I also love the positioning where Telivy is a sales tool. MSPs, we understand the MSP sales process, what it takes to engage the prospect, to engage a visitor to your website, your MSP website, by allowing them to run a risk assessment on your homepage, and allow you to basically create, hey, here's a list of vulnerabilities, here's the action plan, here's the proposal for the MSP. Sign the deal, close the deal. That's how you win clients. You mentioned, and I do want to dive into phishing now. Can you tell us a little bit more, Naren, about the social engineering identification, the assessment? How does that work?
Yeah, so we basically look at multiple different types of data, right? For example, what type of applications are you using? What type of third-party websites you might be on with the agent that you deploy from our side. We also look at any type of typos scoring candidates, and if your information has been found on any dark web content. But we use all this information, and we can run phishing simulation campaign using other platforms. Now, we don't have the phishing campaigns on our platform, but we do use third-party tools for that, so that you can run campaigns that are smarter, and not just default, which I think Tiffany's team also does that really well, with the amount of data that they collect on their platform as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Solutions like Hackware. So, Tiffany, can you tell us a little bit about the user experience as an MSP? When do I come to you for help? What is that journey? First, you mentioned you have an AI that basically pretends to be
Mhm.
a hacker pretending to be an employee. Can you tell us more about that? And then can you tell us sort of the second half of that user journey? What happens if somebody falls for a phishing simulated phishing attack?
Absolutely. So, partners are usually coming to us when they have a couple concerns. So, the driving force of when they would use us is if phishing is one of their top concerns, and they could use our platform as a part of before in a trial phase where they can show the customer. I used to be a managed service provider, and it was really important for me because I was an engineer. I'm always trying to show people, what can be done versus, you know talking about, really selling to them. I always want to show. And so we wanted to make it available for partners to be able to immediately show their customers with the free trial, or potential customer with the free trial, that they are vulnerable to phishing. And so sometimes our partners will use it as a red team operation, which is the way I used it, which means I didn't want to tell my customer that we were running this test. I wanted
Mm.
to run the phishing simulation, show them, and then come back to them with the reporting to show them that they're vulnerable, and then now they can, onboard this customer through a sale, and then continuously use Hackware. And the key thing about us is the reason why it is a continuous endeavor is because we gamify this process where we will try to determine, okay, if we start out with the level one, which is how a lot of cyber criminals target users, is with a generic phishing attack, which means there isn't much personalization. They're casting a wide net. Hackware calls that a level one phish, and so our platform will automatically generate a level one phishing simulation just to see who's going to respond. And then once the users uh, have a good cyber hygiene where they can identify those level ones, it's going to graduate them to a level two, which is a spear phishing attack. It will try to determine more information on if they want to impersonate a contact or a brand, or yes, leverage dark web information. And then once they hit that level and they've done a good job of identifying spear phishing attacks, it will try a level three phishing attack. And oftentimes that's a business email compromise scam where we're injecting the email right into the employee's inbox to
Mm.
help them, where they can't really determine if the URL is being spoofed. It's the exact URL. Like if someone in their organization got their email taken over, sent them an email message asking them for information that they shouldn't give out, our platform will impersonate that as well. And then we have other drivers. Partners may use us for compliance reasons, which is when they will use our learning management system. And we have 9 different compliance lesson plans that makes it easy for them to train their users every month on a topic.
Regarding training, so what happens if a user clicks on that a simulated phishing email?
Yeah, so we don't wait. Our platform will automatically enroll them into a course. So
Wow.
if they fail, then the next couple of seconds they're going to get a email that starts out with a quick pop quiz. And what we're trying to understand is their baseline. We're trying to create a baseline of what do they know about this topic. They have already made the mistake of failing the phishing simulation, and this is a learning opportunity. Now let's put them into this course where we start with the pop quiz, then we put them into a quick short form 3 minute or less video. Employees are busy, they don't have the time to sit through hour-long trainings.
Right.
And then after that, they take a quick pop quiz, and that's focusing on retention. Did they retain the information that was in that video? And
Mm,
so it's all about capturing them in the moment. There, we see that there's typically a 70 to 80% completion rate right after
wow.
failure. And so we're automating that process for the administrators.
That's incredible, and it really shows that you've really thought through this, you and your product team. And I love the user flow, right?
Right.
As a user and as an employee being trained, I receive an email, I click on it. Oh no, I fell for
Right.
the fake phishing scam, and that means I'm vulnerable to real phishing scams. I now just go straight into training, and you
Right.
even have a quiz to measure retention as well from the
Right.
training. It's brilliant. I want to talk a little bit about AI as much as we're able to. I feel like everybody knows that AI is going to have a big impact on cybersecurity, on attacks, right, as well as on the defensive side. Um, I know Hacware AI is a big part of your solution. I was curious, what made you decide to use AI as that tool, as that technology to enable the experience that you do provide, the solution that you do provide?
I had to, it's been a while. We've been in this space for a very long time before generative AI became a thing. And someone had asked me that a while ago, and I had to really think back and try to remember why did I use AI as a tool back then? But really, I had to remember my times with working with the Department of Defense. I was building AI solutions for
Oh wow.
one of their aircraft, and it was a classification algorithm. And then, so that sparked my interest. Once I left the Department of Defense, it was about um, now I have my own managed service company. We are a lean team. Labor at a service-based company is your biggest expense. And so I wanted to look at how can we automate the processes that we are going through? How can we automate looking at phishing trends, looking at targets on who would be susceptible to phishing, generating this content because we didn't want to build that content. We just wanted to look at the end results, tweak the training, but we didn't want to spend the time running it. And so that's when I
Hmm.
pulled the AI bag back out and I realized we can leverage machine learning. There's a big data set that's going to continuously grow. We can build our own data set. We can integrate with email platforms to understand user behavior. We can build, and so we can build a solution that kind of automates our workflow.
Hmm.
And,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah. Go ahead, Naren.
Tiffany, I have a quick question on that. How do you use AI to generate content for your phishing simulations right now, right? Is it something that you first take a look, you do a scan around the environment of the user, and then use that information to generate the content that's customized to a certain extent? I would love to learn more about that process too.
Yeah, we're looking at, there's a couple things that we're looking at. So we're looking at, we've classified 14 elements of risky behavior. We also use OSINT information on information that we can collect about the user. And OSINT is open source intelligence information that we can collect on the user organization. And then we also use dark web scans to also determine which have they been a part of a breach already. And then based on that information, so we can determine from email integrations, activity in the platform. So how active are they in the platform? We can detect, how susceptible are they to open emails with links, attachments, or direct reply. We can also determine sentiment, like
Mm,
with since we have scans and we're looking at metadata, we can determine, well, what lures are cyber criminals using in this exact organization. So we're doing a sentiment analysis on the content that's coming in. We'll classify the content, whether it's a risk. We'll say if this email is potentially a risky email or a safe email. Then we see how the user responds to those risky emails, and then our platform will try to generate a targeted message based on the user behavior that we found.
I'm just curious, what's an example of a sentiment? Do you mean like, professional sentiment, like urgent sentiment, like stressed out
Right.
sentiment? Like,
So we classify sentiment based on lure. So it could be, are they trying to create urgency? Looking at the
mm,
subject to try to
Mhm.
determine, are there terms that is trying to lure the user in with urgency. We also look at, trying to determine sentiment as far as we kind of determine if the subject line is a negative time for the end user. They are potentially, we're calling them distracted, and so we sort of look at those elements to try to determine like what are the lures that cyber criminals are using. When is the best time to send a phishing simulation to a user based on their distracted time, their highly active time.
mm,
So we try to look at that.
very, very cool.
This seems like it would be a good plugin for also, let's say Gmail or Outlook, almost to fill in as an email security, just so that, at least if it's a risky email that comes in, then it's something that you can alert the user on, just to kind of go at their own caution, right? And you can also kind of give it a different rating scale and let them to be cautious if needed. But is that something on your roadmap or something that that might come in the future?
Yeah, I think for us with our API integrations, because for us, we're partnering with email security solutions where they can
Mhm.
pull those insights from our API and
Oh,
leverage
wow.
that. And so for us, it could be in the future where we may build a plugin for Gmail and Outlook, but we're really targeting right now the email security vendors, and trying to create a symbiotic relationship where they can get insights from us, and then also we can learn from them and sort of make sure that we're building this solution that's targeting user risk.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
And yeah, so Noreen asked a lot of really good questions just now. Folks in the audience, if you want to ask questions, feel free to put it in chat. I have an allocated time where I do read those questions. Makes my job easier, and the more questions you guys have. But I did want to dive in. Oh, actually, real briefly, and we can cut this out if it's secret. But I do want to. I'll say as much as what Stephen Holt said on his Televy podcast, which is, yeah, AI is super, super interesting. And Televy, we've been working with some beta users on experimenting with, okay, now that you've, identified the risk, okay, what's the solution? Can we really quickly search up
Mhm.
or look up or identify, figure out what the right solution is for that unique problem and that unique customer? So yeah, really, really interesting things happening on the AI front. So I'd love
Yeah,
to
no, I
hear.
think that's exciting. No, that's really exciting.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'd love to dive into, so uh, let's see. So more about the MSPs here. Maybe two questions in one. What, as vendors, both of us, what do you see MSPs doing? Best practices, working models. How do they approach identifying phishing risks? Or rather, what's the best way that you've seen that they identify phishing risks for their clients? Solving phishing risks? Do they use pen testing, training, combination of both? What does that, insight into the MSP process look like? And on the flip side, what pitfalls have you seen MSPs experience? What should we avoid as MSPs? So what are the best practices? What are the pitfalls? And in terms of, what you guys have seen working with MSPs? Whoever wants
Yeah.
to jump on that first.
Maybe I can specifically talk on the more phishing side, or more on the prospecting side, and then Tiffany would love to kind of get your opinion on it, and dive deeper into details there. But our partners, we usually see them, even for prospects kind of going in, they do recommend a risk assessment before they take them on as a client, so that they can fully understand what type of environment that they will be working with. And the environment also consists of the employees in it and the type of user awareness that's part of it as well. So they actively do phishing simulations there. They first do a full scan, use as much information as possible that they can find based on employees title, what type of apps they're currently using, even what type of data they're currently harboring, and use that to run a phishing campaign that's about 3 to 4 weeks long, actually, just part of the prospecting phase itself. And they run basically three different campaigns on different difficulty modes. On different third party services, or different third party phishing tools, and then find out essentially what are the employees that have clicked on it or have failed, and kind of bring that on during the presentation to the MSP, or to the client, saying that, like, these are kind of the percentage that failed, because of these are the type of emails that we sent out because of these reasons. And this is why, more investment is needed on those specific sites. So that's what we've seen kind of work really well, and that really captures the user behavior part of it that most kind of risk assessments don't, or at least it's self-answered, so you don't really get the quantifiable data that's really needed. But if you were to deploy a phishing campaign test, you really get a lot of details there that you can quantify, on which is resonating, or where users are finding the weakness and where they're not. So kind of showing those types of metrics have really helped in the prospecting piece of it.
I also want to add on top of that, Noreen. Yeah, and thank you for that. A lot of MSPs that we've talked to seem to gravitate. There's one particular thing in Telivy. Telivy assesses the risk. It combines social engineering and breach passwords, a bunch of different things, and it gives you a calculated cost, a cost of a breach, right? It's a dollar amount. It could be thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions even. And then MSPs ask, oh, so where does that number come from? But the reason that's important, and the reason why MSPs care about that number, is because MSPs who we've seen typically succeed, they approach their clients with a mindset of, we're not just an IT cost center. We're not here to fix computers. We're here to propel your business forward. We're here as a business development engine to optimize your processes, make you more efficient, allow you to do more sales, allow you to have greater reach. And so when thinking about it from a business development perspective, that cost, well, okay, here's the cost if you had a breach. Here's the cost if you just pay us monthly as a managed service provider. It's a no-brainer, right? I guess I just wanted to answer that because I know MSPs typically, when they hear this part, they have questions about it. So just real briefly, Naren, where does that cost of a breach that Televy provides, where does that come from?
So basically, like, we are able to identify that data from multiple different third parties, so software parties, our insurance partners, carriers, and brokers alike. And also OSINT data goes into it as well. And when we actually do deploy our scans, we look at a certain number of value for each of the data type that we find, and then combine it with across all the data types that we find, and give you a cost estimate on that. So there's a lot of kind of third party organizations collecting information based on breaches that they have found. And that's also open source, or that's also been self-declared. So we get information from all that and combine it into one single number that you can present it to your clients.
Yep, makes sense. So Tiffany, same question to you. From the MSP's perspective, what are working models, best practices that you've seen, and pitfalls that MSP should avoid?
Well, I think Noreen pretty much covered a good portion of it, but what I would add is um, I think partners where they are really taking the time to understand the necessary things to add to their stack. And what's really important for partners is when your customers, they're relying on you, a lot of them say, I don't want to be an MSSP. I just want to be an MSP. But actually, now small business customers are needing them to have some security elements
Yeah.
as a part of their stack. And what I see, the ones that are getting it are the ones that are saying, these are the elements that I am going to have across all of my packages. I'm going to have security awareness. I'm going to have a password management system. I'm going to have backup and recovery. This is a part of all of our packages. So you can't say you don't want this piece. This is something that you just have to have in order for me to be able to do my job effectively. And so partners that take that approach really are tackling the number one concern they have, phishing. They're tackling that. The ones that I see struggling are the ones that are, letting their customers say, I don't want my users to go through security awareness training. And what they're actually getting is there's more cost associated with not doing those basic level things, hitting the root cause of the problem. We're seeing that they're continuously seeing multiple outreaches. So that means that you have to pay your partner, your MSP, more to try to rectify the system, being more on the reactive side, which is they're going to see more costs later. And so it's really simple. I think the partners that understand which elements should be a part of the stack. I think that makes a lot of sense to have it across the board. And then the other key thing, which I love what you said, Jeremy, is having a business conversation with their customers is super important. Where, as I mentioned before, we're technical. I was technical. And
Yeah.
we often make the mistake of having these technical conversations with people who don't care. They don't want to have a technical conversation. They want to have a conversation about, how are you going to help me with my business? So if I work in an industry where it is required for me to make sure that I'm a part of an organization that requires for me to make sure that I need security awareness in order for me to get insurance, or I'm a part of an industry that says I need to have X practices in place in order for me to go after contracts,
Yep.
then that is what we need to be talking about, instead of communicating about, I need to have, this sort of tool
Right.
and these practices and policies, when the customer only wants to know, how are you going to help me, grow and scale with your services?
I want to dig a little deeper into something you said earlier. A pitfall that you saw was with MSPs who let or allow the client say, no, I don't want that. So I have talked to MSPs who are facing that right now, that
Mhm.
pushback. Um, is there any advice or process or working model that you've perhaps seen the successful MSPs use? Is it just as simple as just, oh no, it's in the package? Or is this something else? Is it something psychological, or how you frame it, or how you educate? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if you have any insight on that.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time around this, supporting our partners with our partner program. And so we've created documents on outcome objections.
Yep.
So how to handle these common objections. We've worked with many of our partners. And so we've found that there's a common thread of, these are the common objections. We give them, you know, a playbook on how to actually, combat that objective. We have digital peer groups on our Discord where partners can come and talk to other partners, not
Cool.
really, talk to a vendor about how they've been able to handle that. But I think the key thing here is, really the risk assessments are a key way to show the customers that they need to make a change. It kind of shows their pain versus showing something that is, something that is theoretical, where we're talking about stats and statistics. Oftentimes that isn't moving the needle, but when you can show them actual, data where this is your gap, we want to make sure, and you talked about, these are your goals of what you're trying to do with your business. If you keep this gap open, then you're not going to be able to reach that outcome. I've seen partners also do a great job when they have customers who have a compliance concern, or
Mhm.
they've mapped their services to a cybersecurity framework. And so they're showing them by using a good one that many partners are using is the Center for Internet Security framework, and they have 18 different controls. The partners are doing the upfront work of showing, okay, these are my services. This is how it maps to these controls. And then they'll show the customer, they'll have a blank document and sort of ask them, okay, what have you already done
Mhm.
in this control
Questionnaire.
area? And so they're kind of showing, okay, if you move and you do business with us, we're going to put the practices in place to secure you on these 18 different controls. And so they'll let that sort of drive the conversation. And then it's no longer a conversation around, well, I don't know if what you're doing really aligns to this dollar. I can't really see or know what you're doing. But many partners they're doing a literal spreadsheet where they're showing you, this is all that I'm going to do for you. It's going to map to this control, which your industry respects this cybersecurity framework. I'm going to be doing this for you. And so that conversation and sale typically goes a little bit better.
That makes a ton of sense. And if Britta is in the audience, if you could post the Discord, that's super interesting. Folks can join it. It'll also be in the description of the video. Okay, last question before we end the webinar here. And at the end, I always like to get slightly personal and just sort of humanize our guests. So, Tiffany, fellow Georgia Tech alumni, hello.
Hi.
Naren, UC Irvine alumni, both computer science. I was computer engineering. I'm the odd one out. Tiffany, serial entrepreneur, as you've said, a successful exit on one of your companies, Motorcade,
Mhm.
a founder of Female Founders of Dallas, and
Yeah.
also founder of Hacware. Noreen,
Mhm.
you're also a serial founder from IBM, you mentioned, founding engineer at FIBO, Hippo Insurance, founding Telivy, of course. When you think back to that journey, what is the most important career learning that you could share with our audience of MSP owners, fellow entrepreneurs, industry experts, industry leaders? Uh, yeah.
You want me to go?
Tiffany, feel free to take this away.
Awesome, Jeremy. Thank you for that. I think that's really good to humanize us. I think for me, the key thing is you have to be a student of this craft. It's really easy. It's really easy to get burned out when we're working in the cybersecurity industry that just keeps evolving. But another way to look at it is you're never bored, and so use this as an opportunity to continuously learn. And but you can get focused. So for the managed service providers that are in the audience, one of the things that I learned with my MSP was it was easier for me when I would focus. So I would have a specialty. I wasn't trying to be everything to everybody. That also allowed me to continuously learn about this specialty uh, and these services that I'm providing to potentially to this industry. I think that is really important. So continuously learn, but also get focused. Let's get narrow. You don't have to be everything to everybody.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's extremely valuable, and it's so easy to get caught up and try to be everything to everybody. But
Mhm.
focus is how we progress and drive forward. Noreen, what about you?
No, that was a great response, Tiffany, especially about kind of like being narrow and kind of really focusing on what
Yeah.
is that value that you're bringing,
Mhm.
which is something that like we seem to like ourselves because just because we provide a lot of kind of findings in our risk assessment and such, a lot of times you have to be really careful about where exactly are we providing the value and be focused on talking about that specifically.
Mhm.
Um, so that really resonates. I think kind of like I kind of came to that same conclusion, but from a different starting point for which is really different for me was that kind of being focused on technical systems before, and being an engineer in past roles, it was always easy to kind of like build things that I think are pretty cool, or build things that I feel are pretty awesome to build or fun to build or whatnot. But a lot of times, kind of throughout this journey and process, it's been really enlightening to kind of build empathy for our users and see exactly what they need, and where they're coming from, just so that we can even communicate in that manner, in a proper way, so that we're building the right solutions for their biggest problems, as opposed to just building what we think is cool. So that's been helping me out, at least in a lot of the sales process, and really just communicating to our users or partners, on exactly where our value is. But and even including that, like internally within the team itself, right? Kind of being able to really understand why others are doing the certain things that they're trying to do from a partner's perspective, even from a client's perspective, and it's easier to kind of broach that gap once you have that understanding. So yeah, that's been really helpful to build up, and hopefully it's helpful in the future as well.
Awesome.
It's
Yeah.
fun to build what you want.
Yep.
Sorry,
Just
what was
probably
that?
won't make any money. Building, it's fun to build what you want. You just, probably won't make any money doing
Exactly. That's what we call it, side projects.
that.
Awesome. And I'm just going to end the webinar with one last plug here. So, yeah, special promotion for webinar listeners and audience members. If you try out Telivy at telivy.com, and if you like a special promotion, let us know you came from the webinar. We'll give you 20% off the upgrade. So thank you so much, Tiffany. Thank you so much, Naren, for speaking here with us on our panel, sharing your experiences, your learnings, and also a little bit about yourselves with us. Thank you all.
Thank you for
Thank
having me.
you.